Hello, and welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Anna Simet, editor of Biodiesel Magazine and SAF Magazine. Today, I'm here with Montana Renewables CEO Bruce Fleming. Bruce, welcome to the podcast. We're thrilled to have you as our guest.
Oh, thanks, Anna. Pleasure.
Absolutely. So I think to begin, let's have you tell our listeners a little bit about Montana Renewables, about the company and what led to its inception.
Sure thing. Montana Renewables is a wholly owned division of Calumet Specialty Products Partners. That's a public company. The business is in Great Falls, Montana. We've got a refinery there, a conventional crude oil refinery, which we reconfigured for renewable feedstocks. We did that over the last couple of years. And the thing that we did that was novel was that we wanted to maintain as much of the conventional fuel production as possible. We operate in a rural area. We're a principal source of supply for the farm and ranch community around us, for example. Mm-hmm. And unlike a lot of other projects that you've heard about, we didn't simply shut the refinery down. We kept the refinery going as well. So we're running both businesses. The renewable one is really cool. We're pretty happy about that. We've gotten a lot of support from the state of Montana. They've been great to work with. They appreciate the value that this brings to the community, and very, very happy to be here to tell you more about it today.
Absolutely. Would you believe that I'm from Eastern North Dakota and I've never been to Montana? It's one of the few states that I've never been to, but I hear it's beautiful.
We're happy there.
I bet. So, Bruce, how about talk us through this project? Some details about it and what you guys have been able to do.
You bet. The refinery has been there more than 100 years. We haven't owned it that long, but it's always been a mainstay of the energy economy in central Montana. The opportunity came about to switch a portion of it to renewable feedstocks. And I'm sure your listeners are well versed with renewable feedstocks, but we did this in a way that we can run any renewable feed from anywhere in the world. That's used cooking oil. Canola is probably going to be a mainstay for us since it grows locally. Tallow, greases from the animal protein value chain, distillers corn oil, which is a byproduct from ethanol production, any of it. So we took a portion of the refinery, converted it, took us about 2 years to get that done. And we started that up late last year. So we're in the business of producing renewable diesel now. We've got renewable hydrogen, which we turned on last month. And we are just commissioning SAF this week. So we're going to have sustainable aviation fuel coming out. At that point, and that completes our journey, we're the largest North American SAF producer. And it's kind of funny because nobody knows that. That's been missed by a lot of folks. You're actually kind of getting a scoop here. You're the first person to call us about this. We're operators. We have our head down, doing projects, running businesses, making products for customers, and we're not developers. We're not really marketers. And so we see lists of North American SAF production, and half of them don't have us on them at all. Mm-hmm. And none of them realize that, there's only one producer right now, that's World Energy in Paramount, California. They make 5 million gallons a year. Mm-hmm. We're selling 30. So just like that, largest SAF producer in North America, and the one that nobody heard of.
Right. It's incredible. So, Bruce, what do you think has been influential to Montana Renewables' success for you guys to get where you're at, so quickly? What do you think?
3 things. So number one, which I mentioned already, was a lot of support from the state. For example, we required construction permits to make the modifications that we made, and we're not a large, emissions source or anything, so maybe that's easier. But the state was very good at working with us, understanding what we wanted to do and supporting it. Second thing is we were lucky. The location in Great Falls is actually perfect for renewable feedstocks converted into renewable transportation fuels, meaning gasoline, diesel, and jet or SAF. In the right part of the country, we're immediately adjacent to all kinds of carbon preference markets. California, Oregon, Washington, British Columbia, all of Canada just opted into this program. So we're in the right spot at the right time for the regulations. And then the third thing is that for reasons of our prior chemical engineering architecture in the refinery, we had the right equipment. We had assets that we could very easily convert because they had the right metallurgy, they had the right technical capabilities, and it was very easy and very quick for us to execute the project.
Mm-hmm. So, SAF production is no easy feat, or renewable diesel at that. What kind of challenges? What were the biggest challenges that you've run into?
Great question. We're a small business. The ability to raise the money from investors to do these things was probably the larger part of our efforts over the last couple of years. I told you we're in the right location, and obviously we can't change that. We weren't going to pick up the refinery and move it.
Right.
We had the right physical assets to do an easy conversion. But, this takes hundreds of millions of dollars, and as a small company, we didn't really have it. So we were fortunate. We found a short-term bridge loan from a company called Oak Tree in 2021. They basically put us in business and allowed us to get started. In 2022, we found a permanent partner, Warburg Pincus, which is a large Wall Street investment firm, and they had been looking for a long time for a quality renewable transportation fuel project like ours. They found us, and that made the permanent financing available, and here we are. So we're looking forward to an expansion in 2 years' time. Mm-hmm. The same issue. We've got the right asset in the right location, but we don't have a great deal of money. And so the Department of Energy has taken an interest in what we're doing. They're fascinated with the way we did the renewable hydrogen, and they like SAF anyway. So we may get some support from the federal government for the next expansion.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you initially have started renewable diesel production. You're transitioning to SAF. Do you think the market is particularly favorable right now for one or the other? Is it equal? Does it depend?
The market is very clearly established for renewable diesel. Mm-hmm. The biodiesel folks did that going back decades.
Right.
The policy support is in place. That's all pretty solid foundation. Mm-hmm. We also make a little bit of a renewable gasoline component. That's also pretty well established. So the ways that those are produced and sold and the way you get compensated through various programs and from customers is clear. SAF is not clear. SAF is forming almost literally as we speak. We had a different vision 6 months ago. I'm sure we'll have a different vision 6 months from now. Everybody's trying to figure it out. So we've got a blue chip off-taker who stepped in, and it's a business-to-business seller. They don't want to be named today, but we're going to have a ribbon cutting on site. It's scheduled for May 10th, and that'll be the reveal there. Mm-hmm. They've got a global position, and they wanted to get hold of this SAF in support of their global strategy. So that worked out pretty well. Does that scale to the whole industry? No. To supply SAF in the quantities that everybody's talking about is going to take every project you ever heard of and a whole bunch more that nobody's thought of yet. We just happen to be very, very early. World energy was first, we're second, and we're biggest. We'll see if we can maintain that, but a lot of people want to come into this space. And like I said, I think there's going to be room for everybody. It's going to be a lot of volatility, a lot of dynamics, a lot of maybe false trails that people try to follow and then double back. We'll see. So right. SAF is going to be a fascinating thing to look back on in a couple of years and see who really figured their way through this.
Absolutely. It's fascinating. So, Bruce, before we, wrap things up, is there anything else you want to add about Montana Renewables, additional projects, or anything else you might want to share with our listeners?
The local listeners in the Pacific Northwest maybe have heard about us. Maybe a few more will hear about us thanks to you today. But the vision is that we've got very short supply chains. Our feed is sourced very locally, the adjacent states. Our products are placed quite locally, the adjacent states again, which I mentioned earlier. And so we think this is pretty good for everybody. There are times in my career when we showed up as a company and said, we think we're going to do X, Y, and Z. You go through the permitting process, you go through public hearings, a variety of folks have a chance to opine. And there were zero objections. At no point did somebody say, I don't think this is the right direction for Montana.
Wow.
We're the unicorn of, appealing to everybody. And I think it's great. The farm and ranch crowd can see the benefit for them. The consumers want these products. The energy transition is going to continue. If anything, it's accelerating, and we're very early. And, I think it's just really fortunate as a series of, historical accidents that we're in the right place at the right time with the right hardware to do a fast conversion, to do an easy conversion. And, oh, by the way, we can pull the SAF out of our products. And so let's do that. Everybody's talking about it, but they're usually talking about it years in the future. Mm-hmm. If somebody else takes the risk. We took the risk. We're here. And it's a pretty exciting time for us.
No doubt. Really fascinating stuff. And I will mention to our listeners, we have profiled Montana Renewables in our inaugural issue of SAF Magazine. Really great story. Be sure to check it out at safmagazine.com. And Bruce, with that, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and telling our listeners about the amazing things that Montana Renewables is doing.
Very much appreciate the opportunity, Anna. Thanks. And like I said, I think you're the first one to call in, so you've got the scoop.
Love to hear that. And to our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're interested in becoming a guest, reach out anytime. With that, we'll end here. Thanks for listening. Until next time.